Isn't it weird how we treat coaches? Is there any other profession where we actively call for people's jobs? Like, could you imagine? My dentist sucks. They gotta cut him loose. It's like, dude, you chose him. You go to see him every Sunday. You gotta take better care of your teeth. In a week where James Franklin and Brian Callahan got fired, it begs the question, what makes a coach terrible? It amazes me how many football fans don't understand what good coaching is, myself included. Is a good coach someone who understands players or understands the game? And spoiler alert, there's a pretty strong answer here. Before we get into coaching as a whole, I've always wanted to study first-year coaches because it feels like there's some weird boost they always get. So let's waste no more time and get into the pretty obvious patterns. Since 2017, 6 of 8 years have had a first-year head coach win their division. And last year it didn't happen, but Mike McDonald tied the Rams and first-year head coach Dan Quinn made the NFC Championship game, so pretty good seasons. But to be fair, that was pulling some pretty specific examples. First-year head coaches don't always stick. So let's look at the data. Here are the first-year head coaches this year, and the win percentage relative to the team they took over last season. Here's 2024. And why not? Let's throw 2023 up there as well. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a pattern here that shows that first-year head coaches, while they're not always succeeding, there's one or two teams that really break through and flip the entire narrative of their organization. So this data shows a couple things, but I want to get a couple exceptions out of the way quick. Unlike Cam Ward with the football. 1. Obviously replacing a coach that's fired gives the new coach house money to play with and sky-high upside. They have nothing to lose. 2. This is by no means me saying that firing and hiring new coaches every season is a good way to build a football team. It's kind of like an ayahuasca trip. Every now and again might be a good thing, but if you're flying south to sing with a shaman every year, you've probably got issues. Panthers, you've got problems. With those two caveats in mind, it's pretty crazy to think how effective a culture change can really be. I'm a Giants fan, and I've been watching the Redskins/football team/Commanders do nothing for the better half of 2 decades, and I never feared them. But one good season, and now they're instant contenders. How did that happen? The NFL is funny because things can up and change in the blink of an eye. The Ravens are just like, bad now? The best example of a top-to-bottom culture change this year has got to be Liam Cohen in Jacksonville. Liam Cohen has lit a fire under this team that I haven't seen since, geez, the Coughlin days? Even the 2019 Saxonville Jaguars didn't have this much juice. Their head coach, Doug Marrone. I dare you to tell me one thing about Doug Marrone. What's the identity there? Defense and Blake Bortles? Point is, Liam Cohen's bringing real intensity in a way that's almost contagious for the whole team. He's John at Bob Saleh, yelling at Trevor Lawrence from the sideline. They even post locker room speeches after they lose. We all saw the Duval video, but if you don't know the full story of Liam Cohen's disaster arrival into Jacksonville, you're in for something, buddy. Florida's been through a lot, but even this was new. Here's the whole spiel, and if you already know the story, it's only going to take me 30 seconds. Liam Cohen was offered a contract extension to be the highest paid offensive coordinator in all of football, and he was going to take it. He even told them he would, but the contract was predicated on the fact that he couldn't explore any more head coaching opportunities, especially the one in Jacksonville, and he wasn't going to because he didn't like GM Trent Baalke at the time. But the Jags fired Trent Baalke just to get Liam Cohen to return, so he wanted to explore his options. So instead of signing the contract with the Buccaneers, he no-showed it and went back to Jacksonville, and he took the head coaching job, leaving Tampa Bay high and dry. That didn't make them happy, especially because of the fact he texted players saying that he would return back. Duval of it. Is that the joke? I don't know. Duval of that happened. There you go. So yeah, Bucs fans hate Liam Cohen and assumed he would be terrible in Jacksonville, but so far they've been wrong. This stems from what I call the cringe coach paradox, because Liam Cohen flipping this moment into success isn't new. It's just a new flavor. Dan Campbell is a guy we'd all say is a pretty good head coach, and he'd also probably win if all the head coaches got into a Royal Rumble style match. Sorry, Kevin O'Connell, but DC came out of his introductory presser with a bike helmet, talking about biting kneecaps off in his crazy Starbucks order, and the mainstream media hated it. They had 2 questions. Why does this guy sound like the dude? And how the hell is this gonna work? And while it took some time, Campbell's cringy entrance has now set him up to be one of the best coaches in the entire NFL. Another huge example of the cringe paradox that we've discovered was Nick Sirianni. If you don't remember his opening presser, that's okay. It was during COVID, but he was talking about flower pots and soil and fertilizer and Martha Stewart, and it all felt like one big joke. How is this guy gonna lead a football team of men in, I'll say it, one of the most cutthroat cities in American sports? Well, it turns out all that cringe nonsense worked out in Sirianni's favor. Don't take it from me, take it from Brandon Graham.
You know what? He won me over when he first got here because it was cool because that press conference he had that he, did all the stuff, said all the wrong things, where y'all got on him. He came into it here and gave us his honest answer on how he felt about it. He was pissed about it, and I love that.
We're gonna close with what makes a coach great, but if you can't already tell, being honest and vulnerable with players goes a really long way. Players actually respect and respond to coaches that go out there and make themselves a fool to the media, because it takes pressure off the whole thing. Changing coaches is awkward, man. I wasn't in the room for Liam Cohen's meeting with the Jags, but I'm sure he said something like, "Look at this, I made a fool out of myself, and I don't even care." And how can you not respect that? I'm a part-time youth coach, and while it's not even close to the same thing, playing confident and playing loose will make you play better. That much I know for sure. There's a lot of stuff that goes into great coaching, but most of this applies to all of us. It's kind of just life advice. Not to get all self-helpy, but holding on too tight will never work in your favor. There's a reason that great football minds say that the difference between good and great is how you respond to pressure. The same applies for life. Being super nervous for a test, being really rigid at work, or just being a flat-out dick will never work out for you. But coaching is way more complicated than just make a fool out of yourself. But it's also less complicated than most people would think. NFL.com did a great article, which I never say, but it details what players think makes great coaches. And in essence, it boiled down to 3 major parts. 1, forward and honest communication. This one ties to the themes of the whole video, but it was a very apparent answer among all the players. Players and coaches are just people. And people just want you to be honest and upfront with them. Bill Belichick might be an old bastard, but he always kept it honest and G-real with all of his players, and they respected that. Man, I might be starting to see what Jordan sees in the fella. He might be an old fart, but he's got a big heart. So if your team can trust your coach, you're in such a better place as a unit. Number 2, being able to connect with every kind of player. Coaches and players might just be people, but there's also a lot of complexities in an NFL locker room, a lot of personalities to juggle. So being able to connect with every single person on different ways is super valuable. This is why I think Aaron Glenn's not working super well right now. Aaron Rodgers might not be the greatest guy ever, but the way they cut him kind of goes to show how Aaron Glenn operates, and it's not great. Number 3, a competitive will to win. Notice how I didn't say scheme, because newsflash, most head coaches don't just stumble their way into a head coaching gig. They've been coordinators before. They know how to draw up plays. That's usually never the issue. But being able to actually compete and care about your team is a little rarer than you'd think, because you can't fake it. That's why these cringe introductions work so well. Not only do they break the invisible wall down, but they show a passion and care for the game. The first UCLA head coach had a really bad opening presser, but it seemed like he didn't care or even know what was going on. Hate it or love it, there's no question that these 3 head coaches and any other successful NFL coach actually care. So while scheme does matter and hiring the right positional coaches count, and it's really important to develop talent, none of that stuff means jack shit if you can't nail down the people skills I just listed. All of this to say, good coaching isn't about the X's and O's. It's about understanding people. And I said that last week with my fantasy video. I'm kind of trying to push a narrative here. Football is dumb. That's literally my channel bio. But connecting with people through football, now that's really cool. So I get that it's really easy to point fingers and want coaches fired. Dude, I'm bouncing back and forth on Brian Daboll every day. But I just want you to remember the next time you're yelling at your TV, "We gotta fire this guy!" Remember why you want to fire him. Because schemes can be fixed, rosters can be improved, but if your coach isn't a leader of men that's respected, then you have a problem. And same goes for life. your teacher, your boss, your Aunt Susie who refuses to let you help out with Thanksgiving dinner even though she's not even a good cook. Let me make the pumpkin pie, Suze. It's not good. Anyways, that's all I got today. Join my live streams. They're after every primetime game and they're super fun. HUNNABALL.
Ball game.